He lived untouchable, cursed, feared, broken. So he kept the world at a distance until the day she touched him. And the wolf, who never let anyone near, melted into her hand like fate, had been waiting for that moment all along. The mountain held its breath when he passed. It wasn't magic in the way songs tried to soften it, or curses the way frightened elders whispered to keep children from wandering too close. It was older than superstition and far more precise. Stone tightened, snow stilled. Wolves went silent, not from fear, but from recognition, an instinct as old as blood. The Alpha of Blackreach walked alone. He did not need guards. He did not allow them. What lived in his skin was reason enough. Cole moved through the outer paths at dusk, boots crunching softly against frost-laced gravel, his dark cloak pulled tight against a wind that curved away from him as if it knew better than to linger. The fortress rose ahead, iron and stone cut into the mountain itself, battlements sharp as a warning rather than a welcome. No torches were lit for him. None ever were. Servants knew better than to reach. Guards knew better than to offer their arms in greeting. Wolves stepped aside without ceremony, lowering their heads, respecting the distance not out of submission, but necessity. Touch was forbidden. It had been for 7 years. Once, he had been a man who led with his hands. He remembered it in flashes, rough palms clasping forearms in greeting, steady pressure at the back of a younger warrior guiding him forward, the weight of another wolf leaning into his side after battle, laughter shared shoulder to shoulder in moments stolen between wars. All of it was memory now, dangerous to linger on. The first time it happened, the curse, or whatever truth hid beneath that word, had announced itself without drama. No thunder, no warning dream, just pain, sudden and absolute. A healer's touch to his bare wrist. A flash of white heat. The scream that followed had not been Cole's. After that, no one needed convincing. Skin burned when contact was intentional. Sometimes it blistered. Sometimes it shattered nerve and muscle alike. Once, it had stopped a man's heart outright. No one touched the Alpha anymore, and Cole ensured it stayed that way. He crossed the inner threshold of the fortress as the great doors opened for him on silent hinges, guards stepping back with practiced timing, eyes averted not from reverence, but from care. Proximity itself was dangerous. He kept his distance precise, measured, always aware of how close his presence pressed, without ever crossing that invisible line. The council chamber waited beyond, dimly lit, elders already seated along the stone table, their voices tapering off as he entered. They rose, not because he demanded it, because something in him still commanded the room, curse or not. "Alpha," one of them said, careful to keep his hands folded, his voice steady. Cole inclined his head. He did not stop walking. He did not slow. He took his seat at the head of the table without ceremony, placing both gloved hands flat against the stone, leather between his skin and the world. He had learned early, fabric dulled the effect, sometimes enough to spare pain. Bare skin was where destruction lived. "The southern trade route?" he asked. "Straight to purpose. Always." The elders glanced at one another, relief flickering. They preferred him this way, controlled, distant, all sharp edges and no small talk. He made decisions cleanly. He ruled without indulgence. No one accused him of softness. One might, if they were foolish, call it strength. None of them saw what it cost. "You've had another refusal," Elder Brand said after a moment. "The Frostvale Pack has declined the alliance." Cole's expression did not change. "They will," he said calmly. Bran hesitated. They cited concern. Cole lifted his gaze, just enough. Concern was a polite word. Fear wore nicer clothes when spoken aloud. "Of me," Cole finished. "Yes." There it was. The truth never needed decoration. "They fear what they cannot touch," Cole said. "That is not my burden to correct." A few elders shifted, uncomfortable. Bran cleared his throat. They requested reassurance, perhaps a gesture, presence, A show of no. The word cut through the chamber without volume. It didn't need it. No one argued. Cole pushed back from the table and stood, the decision already complete. Trade will continue or it will not. They will learn which loss costs more. He turned toward the doors, cloak sweeping behind him. It should have ended there. It usually did. But tonight, something else waited beyond the threshold. He felt it before he saw her. Not magic, not recognition the way songs lied about. Just a shift, subtle, precise, as if the air itself had adjusted its balance around someone new. Cole's steps slowed. The corridor ahead was narrow, torchlight spilling across stone. And there, standing far too close to the edge of space he kept carefully measured, was a woman he did not know. She was unarmed, she was unafraid, and she had not moved out of the way. Guards flanked her at a respectful distance, tension evident in their stances, unsure whether to drag her back or flee themselves. One of them opened his mouth, likely to bark a warning too late. Cole raised a hand. They froze. He stopped a few paces from her, just inside the line where his presence usually forced retreat. She did not retreat. She lifted her chin instead, not in defiance, not in challenge, but in attention. As if she were meeting a man, not a weapon. That alone was mistake enough to be dangerous. "Who are you?" Cole asked, voice level. "And why are you here?" She met his gaze steadily. "I'm Anna," she said, "and I was told you would try to stop me." Interesting. He studied her carefully then. She was not dressed like a court lady, no silks, no furs begging for approval, but neither was she dressed as a servant. Practical wool, fitted without invitation. Boots meant for walking long distances. Hair pulled back in a simple braid that spoke of habit rather than vanity. Strong, but not loud. Her scent reached him a heartbeat later, clean, wind-touched, with something quietly steady beneath it. It did not unsettle him. That unsettled him. "And yet," Cole said, "you came anyway." "Yes." No apology, no bravado, just fact. "You were warned," he said. "I was informed," Anna replied calmly. "Warnings tend to exaggerate." A muscle ticked in Cole's jaw. "You understand the danger," he pressed. Her eyes flicked briefly to the guards, then back to him. "I understand distance." That, too, was interesting. Most people spoke of fire, of pain, of death. She spoke of space. "I didn't come to touch you," she continued, as if reading the calculation in his gaze. "I came to speak." "From there," he said flatly. She did not step closer. She did not step back. "Of course," she agreed. Something inside his chest tightened. Not desire, not fear, but the disquiet of encountering something unanticipated and finding no immediate reason to reject it. "You have 1 minute," Cole said. She did not waste it. "They're wrong about you," Anna said quietly. "Not the danger. That part is real. But the rest." Cole's eyes hardened. "You know nothing of me." "I know enough," she replied. "I know you pull your reach inward instead of letting it expand. I know you rule without demand. I know no one has died by accident since the first year." His stillness sharpened. "That information is not public." "No," she said, "but patterns are." Cole felt it then. Not the curse, not the burn, but something far more unwelcome. Interest. "You should leave," he said, voice low, "before proximity becomes consequence." Anna held his gaze a moment longer. Then, finally, she nodded, not in fear, in acknowledgement. "I will," she said, "but I'll return, because whatever you think this is, it's not meant to stay broken." Cole watched her turn away, braid brushing her back, steps unhurried as the guards scrambled to give her space. She did not look back. He remained where he was long after the corridor emptied, the mountain quieting again around him. For the first time in 7 years, the silence felt incomplete, and that, more than any curse, unsettled him deeply. Anna returned 3 days later, not announced, not escorted. She did not arrive with petitioners or formal summons, nor did she present herself at the gates like someone seeking permission. She entered Blackreach the way one entered a place they intended to survive, by learning its rhythm and stepping into the pauses. Cole felt her before he saw her again. It was not awareness in the mystical sense. It was the awareness of a man who lived by discipline, recognizing a new variable in his territory. Her presence did not spike the air. It did not scrape along his skin like threat or demand. It simply occupied space. Wrong space. He was training in the lower yard, stripped to his tunic despite the cold, movements controlled as he drove power through a practice blade that had dulled with years of impact. The rhythm was familiar, punishing, a way of working thought out of the body. Steel rang, boots echoed, and something in his chest tightened, not alarmed, not sharp, but alert in a way he had learned to distrust. He stopped mid-motion. The blade settled, breath even. Every instinct honed to stillness. She stood near the edge of the yard, where no one else did. Too close. Every pair of eyes noticed it at once. Guards stiffened. Wolves along the wall froze, ears flattening. Someone inhaled sharply and then thought better of speech. Anna did not cross the line. She stood just outside it. That was the difference. Cole turned toward her slowly, deliberately, letting no one mistake the movement for surprise. His gaze locked onto her with practiced calm, assessing distance down to the inch between them. "You were told to leave," he said. "I did," Anna replied, "and I was also told no one forbade my return." Technically accurate, he disliked that immediately. "You put others at risk by standing there." "I'm aware," she said, "which is why I stopped here." She did not gesture. She didn't need to. The invisible line was real enough to be measured. "You should go farther back." She considered the space behind her, then returned her gaze to him. "I could," she said, "but that wouldn't serve the purpose." "And what purpose do you believe gives you the right to test my patience?" Anna's expression remained composed, but something sharpened in her eyes. Not defiance, but resolve. "I'm not here to test you. I'm here to understand." Cole stepped closer. Not much. Just enough. The air between them tightened. Several guards shifted instinctively, their bodies remembering what happened when space collapsed too far. Cole felt the heat stir beneath his skin, not burning yet, but warning. Anna did not move. Her pulse quickened. He could hear it, but her stance remained steady. That should not have been possible. "You misunderstand," Cole said quietly. "Understanding me will cost you." "I'm willing to pay," she replied. "No," he corrected. "Others will pay first." Her gaze flickered, just once, to the men lining the walls. Then she nodded, as if conceding a point. "Then let me do this properly," she said, "without witnesses." The request landed heavier than challenge. "You don't make demands here." "I won't," Anna said. "I'll make a choice." She turned then, not hurried, not dismissed, and walked away along the stone edge, keeping exactly the same distance until she vanished beneath the archway. Cole watched until she was gone. Then he realized something far more troubling. The heat had subsided, fully, no recoil, no burn, nothing. He did not summon her. 2 days passed, then 4. She remained absent, and the quiet began to fray. Cole found his attention caught at thresholds where it had no reason to linger. Corridors held a question now. Corners opened into expectation. He told himself it was vigilance, the mind adjusting to a variable it had not eliminated. The lie tasted thin. She returned on the 5th day. This time, she came to the upper overlook, an open terrace carved into the mountain where wind took precedence over walls. No guards stood near. Cole allowed that place to remain unprotected because proximity alone discouraged foolishness. He stood near the stone railing when she approached, cloak snapping softly in the wind. He sensed her at his back before she spoke. "I didn't cross the line," Anna said. Cole turned enough to confirm it. She had stopped again, precise, attentive. "You remember where it is." "I remember what matters," she replied. He exhaled slowly. "Why are you here?" "To be near you," she said simply. No heat crept beneath his skin, no warning, just distance holding. "You speak with dangerous ease," Cole said. "I speak with care," Anna answered. "There's a difference." He studied her again, not as a threat, not as a curiosity, but as something new standing inside rules that should have broken her already. "Move back," he said softly. She did, immediately. Obedience without submission. He felt the shift inside him then, something loosening not in hope, but in pressure. The way a held breath becomes a choice instead of reflex. "Step forward," he said. She hesitated, not from fear, this time from judgment. Then she took a single step closer. Nothing happened. His skin did not burn. The wind moved between them undisturbed. Cole went very still. "You should leave," he said, though the words lacked command. "Not yet," Anna replied. "Not if this is what I think it is." "And what do you think it is?" "I think," she said quietly, "that what hurts is not proximity. It's intention." That struck harder than any contact could have. Cole took one slow step toward her, not as an alpha, as a man who measured risk with brutal honesty. Heat stirred faintly, but it didn't rise. Anna remained where she was, breath steady, eyes on his, not his hands. "You don't reach," she said softly. "You don't lean. You don't even want contact." His jaw tightened. "You should not be this observant." "It's how I survive," she said. So I noticed something else. He waited. "You don't fear hurting me," she continued. "You fear wanting to." Silence fell heavy between them. The truth of it sat unchallenged. Cole stepped back then, not in retreat, but in control. "That is enough," he said, "for today." Anna nodded. "I'll return." "I didn't say—" "I know," she said gently. "That's not why I come." She turned and walked away. This time Cole didn't watch until she vanished. He watched his own hands. They were steady. And for the first time since the curse took hold, he realized something else with startling clarity. What terrified him wasn't the possibility that touch could be restored. It was the realization that he already trusted the woman who could reach him, and trust, once given, was far more dangerous than fire. Cole learned her habits before he learned her past. She never passed through the outer gates, never wore visitors' markings. The guards didn't escort her so much as adjust around her, stepping aside with the uneasy recognition of someone who had already been instructed not to interfere, which told Cole everything he needed to know. She had permission that hadn't come from him. He didn't question it further since her presence brought him peace. She arrived at the same hour most days, not because it was summoned, but because routine mattered to her. She chose spaces that allowed distance without walls, places where retreat was always possible. The Overlook, the long eastern corridor that caught the morning light. Once, the old map chamber where history slept beneath dust and stone. She never surprised him. That, more than courage, was what allowed him to remain. Trust, for Cole, was a discipline. One misjudged movement could unravel years of control. So he measured her the same way he measured danger, by consistency, by restraint, by what she chose not to do. And Anna chose restraint every time. They did not sit together at first. They stood in thoughtful proximity, angled slightly away from one another, attention shared but not demanded. Conversation flowed without probing, topics grounding rather than intimate. Trade routes, winter strain, the stubborn nature of mountain storms. Yet even in neutral words, something else built quietly. Cole found his body responding before his mind allowed it, muscle loosening when she was near, breath steadying instead of tightening. The heat that once warned him away remained dormant, as if uncertain whether it was still needed. She noticed. She always noticed. "You stop guarding your left side when I'm here," Anna said one morning. Cole glanced at her. "That would be a mistake with anyone else." "I know," she replied, "which is why I haven't told anyone." Something warm settled low in his chest, approval, sharp and protective. It was the night the storm came down from the peaks that everything shifted. Snow hammered the fortress walls, wind howling through the upper terraces like a living thing. The past used weather like this to find him, dragging memory to the surface with brutal clarity. He woke standing in his chamber, breath ragged, heart pounding, fire crawling beneath his skin like a threat. No one came to his door. They never did. The curse had taught them to keep their distance when the Alpha was not controlled. Except tonight. Footsteps stopped outside. Slow, careful. "Anna," Cole said into the dark. "I won't come closer," she replied through the door. "But you're not alone." He closed his eyes. "You should leave." "I will if you ask again," she said. "But you didn't ask." The fire inside him calmed, not vanished, but reined in. She spoke then, not of him, not of the past, but of mountains she'd crossed alone, of cold that set into bones slowly, of fear that taught her patience instead of panic. He listened, anchored by her voice. When silence finally fell, it was not empty. "Why are you doing this?" Cole asked quietly. A pause, longer than the others. Then she answered. "Because once," Anna said softly, "someone taught me that being reached for doesn't always mean being harmed. And I survived because they didn't rush me." He turned toward the door. "What happened?" he asked. She inhaled slowly. "I was held too tightly when I said stop, and too gently when I needed strength. People mistake dominance for safety. They mistake absence of touch for restraint." "And you know the difference," Cole said. "Yes." That was the night he let her step closer than ever before. Days later, they stood together in the map chamber, the past stretching across stone tables in ink and scars. Cole leaned close behind her as she traced a route with her finger, heat gathering where proximity narrowed choice. His hand hovered inches from her wrist, close enough to feel warmth, not close enough to touch. "You don't pull away anymore," Anna murmured. "You don't ask me to reach," he replied. Her breath caught, so did his. The restraint between them stretched tight as wire. Then, a mistake. His knuckles brushed her skin, bare, intentional only in aftermath. Cole recoiled instantly, heart slamming hard enough to fracture calm. But nothing happened. No fire, no agony, just the echo of warmth lingering where he had touched her. Anna did not move. She turned slowly, eyes searching his face. "Cole," she said gently. He stared at his hand, then at her. "You didn't hurt," he whispered. "No," she said. "You didn't." The realization landed with terrifying certainty. She was not immune. She was trusted. And trust, once given, changed everything. For 2 days after the accidental touch, Cole avoided her. Not out of fear, out of certainty. Certainty that whatever had shifted between them had altered the rules he'd lived by for 7 years, rules that had kept others safe and him contained. Certainty that if he saw her again before he understood it, he would reach without hesitation. That was what unsettled him. Wanting was a far more dangerous thing than burning. He stayed to the training yards at hours he knew she didn't frequent, walked the high ridges at dawn instead of dusk, read through council disputes with a focus sharp enough to leave the parchment edges frayed beneath his thumbs. But avoidance, he found, was not a shield. Anna moved through the fortress with a rhythm he'd already memorized, and silence did not erase her presence. He sensed her in the shift of air down a corridor, in the way guards straightened reflexively before glancing at him to gauge his reaction, in the subtle pause that settled into rooms she'd recently left, as though she carried stillness with her instead of leaving it behind. She was becoming a fact of his environment, predictable, measured, and entirely unwilling to retreat. On the third evening, Cole stood in the lower hall, staring at a map he did not see. The torches snapped softly. Snow drifted in lazy spirals through the window slits. Somewhere deeper in the fortress, a bell struck once, the hour signaling final patrol. He knew she was behind him before she spoke. "You've been avoiding me." Her voice was calm, not accusing, not wounded, just precise enough to deny him the comfort of pretending otherwise. Cole didn't turn. "I needed time. To understand," she said. "Yes." "And did you?" He exhaled once, slow enough that it didn't betray anything he wasn't willing to admit. "No." That made her move closer, not enough to cross his line, just enough that he could feel the outline of her presence pricking faintly at the edge of his control. "Cole," she said quietly, "you didn't hurt me, and I didn't hurt you. Something changed. That deserves to be faced, not avoided." "Facing it is the danger," he replied. "No," she said. "Ignoring it is." He turned then, just enough to meet her eyes. They were steady. Always steady. She wasn't fearless. He'd seen enough of her to know she respected danger, but she met reality without flinching from it. That strength pulled something taut inside him. "Tell me why," Cole said. "Why you help me? Why you stay?" "You already know," she replied. He stepped closer. Not much, but enough. "Say it." For the first time her breath hitched, not in fear, in restraint. "Because I recognize what isolation looks like," she said softly. "Not the kind imposed by others. The kind we build ourselves, brick by brick, because once, only once, someone weaponized our trust." Cole went still. "What happened to you?" he asked again, but the question now carried weight instead of curiosity. She shook her head once. "It's not a story, it's a scar, and scars only matter when they choose what we become." He understood that better than most. "And you think I can become something else?" "No," she answered. "I think you already are. I'm only showing you the parts you stopped looking at." Silence pressed close. Then Cole said the truth he had not intended to say aloud. "I want to touch you." Anna's eyes softened, not with surprise, but with recognition. "I know. It could still harm you. It hasn't yet." "That isn't certainty." "It's enough to choose," she said. Slowly enough that she had time to withdraw if she wanted to, Cole lifted his hand. It hovered between them, suspended in the small, fragile space where years of restraint fought the new, quiet pull of trust. Anna didn't move. She didn't rush toward him. She simply held her ground. Cole lowered his hand toward her cheek. Halfway there, heat flickered beneath his skin, an old warning, familiar as breath. He hesitated. The curse curled like a memory, waiting to ignite. "It's all right," Anna whispered. "You're not reaching with intent to harm." Intent. That single word shifted something inside him. His hand completed the final inch of space. His fingertips touched her cheek, bare skin, warm, soft, and no fire came. Cole's breath left him in a single, harsh exhale, not in weakness, but in relief sharpened into something dangerously close to hunger. Anna leaned into his palm with the faintest, deliberate pressure. It wasn't bold. It wasn't dominant. It was an offering, a choice. He traced her cheekbone with his thumb, slow enough that self-control trembled beneath it, but did not break. The warmth of her skin moved through him like something he had starved for without admitting it. Every instinct told him to pull her closer, to claim more than he had earned. He didn't. His control held. Barely. "Cole," she murmured. He lowered his forehead to hers. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just breath against breath, restraint against restraint, bodies close enough to feel tension thrumming between them like a living pulse. "You broke it," he said against her skin. "You broke it," she corrected. "I only met you where you stopped running." His hand slid from her cheek to the curve of her jaw, steady, reverent in a way he'd never allowed himself to be. "Do you understand what this means?" he asked. "Yes," she whispered. "It means you're mine to protect. Only if I choose to be." His lips brushed her temple in a slow, deliberate answer. "You already chose." The first thing Cole did after was order silence. Not secrecy, not confinement, simply silence. The removal of noise that would cheapen what had shifted. Guards were reassigned farther from his wing. Council matters were delayed. The fortress breathed easier without being told why. No one questioned it. They felt it. The Alpha of Blackreach no longer carried danger like a loaded weapon. He carried it like a sheathed blade, still deadly, still controlled, but no longer turned inward. Touch returned to his life slowly, intentionally, never absent-minded. The first time he reached for Anna's hand in public, it was to guide her over uneven stone. He didn't rush it. He didn't test it. His palm closed around hers with certainty, heat rolling beneath his skin without igniting. The watching wolves froze. Nothing happened. Anna didn't smile. She didn't look around to gauge reaction. She simply intertwined her fingers with his and continued walking, grounded as ever. Later, when they were alone, Cole pressed his forehead to hers, breath low and steady. "It still listens to me," he murmured. "The fire?" she asked. "Yes. And it always will," she replied. "It just answers to choice now instead of fear." Nights changed next, not immediately. At first, she slept in her own chamber, the door between them respected, distance preserved not out of necessity, but intent. Trust, Cole had learned, did not require constant proximity. It required consistency. But when the storms returned, and they always did, he no longer faced them, standing alone in the dark. Anna would enter quietly, never waking him on purpose, simply anchoring herself beside him on the edge of the bed. Sometimes her hand rested near his arm without touching. Sometimes it rested over his heart. When he woke, the fire stayed dormant. When he breathed, it stayed even. The past loosened its grip without ceremony. He claimed her openly at the winter gathering, not with a speech, not with ritual demanded by elders or tradition heavy enough to suffocate choice. He claimed her by standing behind her, by placing his hands at her waist, by leaning down and speaking against her hair so only she could hear him. "I won't cage you," he said. "I won't command your loyalty. But if you stand beside me, you will never stand unprotected." Anna turned in his arms, her hands settling against his chest without hesitation. "I'm not looking to be shielded from the world," she said softly. "Only from what would consume me." His forehead rested against hers. "That," he replied, "is my specialty." Their first kiss came later, unwitnessed, unrushed. Cole's hand curved around her neck, thumb tracing the pulse there, grounding himself in the proof that touch no longer led to pain. His mouth met hers with deliberate restraint, testing control, honoring the patience that had brought them here. She answered him, not passively, not tentatively, but with quiet certainty, her fingers sliding into his hair as if they had always belonged there. The kiss deepened. Not frantic, not desperate, just inevitable. When they finally pulled apart, Cole rested his brow against hers. Breath rougher now, control flexing like something used to strain but no longer break. "I was never untouchable," he said softly. Anna smiled then, just a little. "No," she agreed. "You were waiting." The fortress learned her presence the way it had learned his, through habit, through steadiness, through the absence of harm. Doors stayed open. Hands were clasped. The Alpha of Blackreach walked no longer alone. And when he reached for her, whether in a crowded hall or the quiet of night, there was no fire to fear, no curse to resist, only choice, only trust, only the unbreakable bond forged not by fate or force, but by restraint honored long enough to become something eternal.